Okay, thank you, everybody. We'll reconvene at 11:30. We're up to stage now for our applicant to have a right of reply to address those issues that have been raised by the inspector during their evidence. So please, floor is yours again.
Yep.
Good question for right of reply. Swan, do you wish to take an oath for affirmation? Or do you just want to make a statement?
I'll just
Okay.
actually. Yep. So we just want to bring a kind attention to the DLC that we respect the decision and the concerns raised by the inspectors and the senior inspectors. We have fulfilled all the concerns and the requirements as mentioned in the report, and even as mentioned by the Hud City inspector about her visit during the opening hours. And we would like to clarify one thing, that we got enough duty managers. We got a Janvi certificate approved just half an hour ago. So we now have 8 duty managers on the floor to run both the premises in order to follow the sales and supply of Alcohol Act 2012 to minimize the risk of intoxication for the minors and the safer operation of the restaurant and the community. We don't have any objections with the inspectors. We don't like, they are doing their job, we are doing our part as well. The only thing is that has been a time consuming process, 5.5 months. What she has requested, we have provided all the required documents time to time. And in the final explanation, they have raised the suitability of the applicants. We have provided the staff rosters. System, staff and training records also has been provided. And we do have a low alcohol and zero alcohol options available on the site. We'll make sure every time that we follow all this as a responsible owner, working owner, all the time.
That's okay. So
yeah, I've just got two just before we wrap up. I'd just like you to clarify, particularly for myself, what you think your responsibilities are under the conditions of a license.
Just have to make sure that as for the act, we should have the duty manager all the time on the floor in order to minimize the risk of the intoxication, not to supply the alcohol to the minors. We need to look after the guest as well. The second thing is that as an owner, as a licensed premises, we should have the tap water, a low alcohol option or zero option to the requirements of the guest.
Okay. And secondly, can you tell us why you think it may be important to provide training to your staff?
Yes, it is because as mentioned by the inspector, she witnessed the outside board at the cafe. We do admit that we've been asked the manager to remove all the signs related to the sale and supply of the alcohol on 11th of September, as that was the last day of the temporary authority. But somehow we missed that, and even he missed that. So we don't have any explanation, but I think in my opinion, we need to train the staff, and we did that. We have gone with all the staff and training records again after the visit, and in future we'll make sure that everything will run smoothly.
Can you just explain a little bit in more detail how you will ensure that doesn't happen again?
So what we did, like we gone through the serve application for the sales and supply of the alcohol. We gone through the each and every single stuff with that go to the quiz, follow, read each and everything, and what's the basic necessity fulfilling the sales and supply of the alcohol. We gone through some Googles, that the more appropriate training records in terms of it, not terms of showing a DLC or inspector that we have a training record, but personally we believe that each and everyone should go through that, and we have gone through that what is our responsibility, what we are here to do as a duty manager, as a front of house, or as a chef.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Freddie. But today we've heard from the inspector and we've heard from yourself, and there have been some concerns raised around suitability. When you look with a bit of hindsight, would you believe that, or would you think that there were some things that could have been done better, things that were possibly missed, and that this has been a situation where it has almost been learning on the go as to the requirements and the what is needed to fulfill your obligations for a license?
Yes, this is but obvious things that the what are the obligations and what are the requirements we have to follow, and we have to obey the law. And yes, the inspector are right that we are living across the hill. Okay, we only have one duty manager who is living locally, but what we have trained that the two more persons, the Melanie and Vasu, so they will apply for the LCQ license and they will get the duty manager, and they both are living locally. So we'll have then three duty managers who will live locally in order to fulfill the requirement of the inspector and our working operation hours. And as like as that Dipal mentioned that in the first visit she came, introduced herself and explained the things and the requirements of the records and everything. So we are learning the things, we are making the paperwork, the behavior of the staff, and how to deal with the sales and supply of the alcohol more efficiently what we used to now.
So it would be your belief that if the inspector was to come on site at some stage now, you would be able to perform all the tasks required of you around the license?
Yes. So every time we'll make sure that as she visited, the Pratik has been instructed Malini not to sell the alcohol, but that was the sudden situation that we can't explain or we can't justify that things. But in future, we'll make sure if no one is there, no DM is there, everything will be shut off. Firstly, the DM will be there, but if any situation like if he is sick or she is sick, we can't be able to come over the hills, there will be a clear instructions in written in written communication with via email or everything that no alcohol will be sold.
I just want to drill in just a little bit about the two potentially new duty managers. What if one of those potential duty managers leaves? How how will you ensure that that position is filled quickly so that you can continue trading under the conditions of the license?
So as mentioned earlier that we are having a 7 duty managers on the floor. Just half an hour ago, the Janvi certificate is also been approved today and she has the certificate in her hand. So we have now 8 duty managers. In future, we'll apply the Malini's and the Vasu's manager certificate as well. So we have a plan, we have a roster in order to leave. If someone wants to leave or someone wants to go a family emergency outside that, we are having enough duty managers to cover that shift.
And the leaving that I'm referring to is if they go to another job, to another restaurant or cafe, you'll have a vacancy. So you've mentioned 2 names here who trained and to get their new license.
Yep.
But if one of those people leaves, it may not be so easy to replace them. Certainly not in the short term. So what contingency will you have in place? Will it be that you will ensure duty managers are coming from over the hill, or will you look for local duty managers in Wairarapa? How will you ensure that you've got 2 more local?
So during this process, we got to know that it's quite important to have the duty managers locally rather than over the hill, because this has been significantly concerns raised by the inspector. So we will make sure that at least we have one backup option all the time. In case of emergency, we can get that duty manager on the floor in order to run the business.
The objection by the inspector has been in 3 distinct parts, correct? So rostering, staff training, and the systems in place. We've talked a lot about the rostering, and you've heard the inspector say that if the hours were reduced to what you've submitted on your rostering, then that would tick that all right. So we'll put the rostering to one side. Section 105 says that if you fail any of the criteria of safe supply of alcohol, that an application could be declined. We've had 2 inspections in 2 sites, and the same issues have been identified in Petone and here under your temporary license. Would you agree with that?
Yes, but the thing is,
Okay, so hang on. I just want to make sure that we're on we're talking about the same sort of thing, okay? Because we've had staff training in Petone and staff training here. We've had no duty managers on site in Petone and no duty managers here, and no low alcohol beer at either site, or no low alcohol options at either site. Is that correct? Okay. Why is it then that you think that, given that Section 105 is quite particular about when you should or should not get a license, why is it when you've had 2 inspections in 2 sites and failed in those areas, or been found wanting in those areas, that this committee should say, okay, we'll take a punt and grant you a license? Give me something that says, okay, I can understand why and how, and what is it that we can assess that says this will never happen again. Does that make sense? Okay.
so in Petone, like he Pratik was roasted over there, and he went to the Gilmore's, because Gilmore is just right back to the restaurant, to get some of the low beers, because at that time we ran out of that, and he just went outside to grab the lamb and a low beer options while the Deepal has arrived. So I know in one term we have breached that, but the other thing, we don't have any justification or clarification for that. But we want to make sure that now onwards, if we are selling alcohol or we are opening hours, or for the opening hours for the restaurant, we'll have the duty manager all the time. If someone wants to go out, we have the backup options as well, that the Janvi is working over there, the Amit is working over there. So we'll have the duty manager all the time. If someone wants to go out, as mentioned, raised by the ma'am, so we'll make that sure to follow the 105, not to break any breaches, make the staff more aware about these things, what we already did after the compliance, and we are learning the things, and we'll make sure every time there's things.
I think, I'm not quite sure if you understood where I was trying to tease out from you. So the two examples of running out of low alcohol options, they're not failures of a duty manager, they're systems failures. So they're business failures, that you've run out of a product that is required by a license. Am I making that clear? So, that's not on the duty manager, that is on the business hasn't ascertained the requirement or the amount of zero alcohol that you may require during any particular shift or whatever. And given that it's happened in Petone and here, suggests it's not a manager's, it's not a personnel fault, it's a system fault in the business itself. So how do you intend to rectify that to satisfy that requirement of the two breaches that you've had?
So we already stock. In that case, we missed the stock that we run out. But now what we did of the ordering the low alcohol and zero options available at the stock, we already have 3 or 4 cartons for the backup rather than putting in the fridge. So if we rotate the stock, like if we run out on the fridge, we put that from the back to the fridge and we top up on the back side. So in that case, we'll make sure, and we are making sure in Pitoni, because we don't have the license here, so we are making sure that we have at least 10 to 15 bottles of the zero alcohol options and the low beer options available all the time.
Okay. The other area I'd like to tease out a little bit more for you is the staff training issue. You've heard the inspector say that you've presented individual staff training plans, which are guides from who's it? The restaurants organisation. They're not staff training plans. They are guides to develop a staff training plan. So how do you propose to fix that issue? Because staff training is an individual thing, not a group thing. It's an employment contract issue.
So what we do now, we make sure that we will update that staff training record according to our business. What are the requirements? Because cafe has different requirements than restaurant in Pitoni, to be honest. So what we have discussed earlier, that that staff training record was same for both sides. But now what we do, we will dig into it bit according to the sale and supply of it, a requirement of UMASIS. We make a nice and tidy one staff training, and each and every staff we give them a training and cross training, and every 3 months we just update that thing then and remind that they can go through and they can remember what are the laws and why it's necessary to follow these things. So we have decided to making sure we will update that and go through the entire process again for the staff training.
Okay. How much time will you require to implement that?
14 working days would be more than enough for us.
So 14 working days, you could have the individual staff plans.
By the time we will get everything done.
So you could have those submitted to the inspector prior to us finalising our decision. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, that's my questions then. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like us to take into consideration? You get one more chance to, and that's after obviously closing. So
That's all from.
okay, thank you. So that's the end of our hearing of evidence and the right of reply. We're now going into the closing submissions. Are you right to proceed with your?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
I might just take a moment to sort myself. Thank you. Thank you, Chair and Committee. I have some additional copies of some case law which haven't been provided, which I'll be providing part of my closing submission if I could provide copies.
No, too late.
Right. Okay. In relation,
No, the applicant hasn't had a chance to review them, so you can't enter it into evidence at this stage.
just providing as part of my collection rather than evidences in relation to the breaches. Just in relation to closing, that the responsibility of the licensee is to have a appropriate system staff training that must be appropriate to ensure that the licensee complies with the law, being section 105.5 of the Act, and is obvious much wider than merely complying with this Act. It goes towards suitability and appropriate processes in place. In relation to the applicant and the object of the Act is to ensure the safe and responsible sale of alcohol. The applicant in their replies referred to learning during this process, during the premises. It'd be my submission that indicates that this is a continued risk. The applicant had applications in place for a period of time, being from March this year. The evidence that you've heard today from the inspectors details both running out of stock, not having low alcohol options on site, being part of their licence conditions and a requirement under the Act, and on both occasions, no duty manager on site. The evidence provided to the committee today in relation to staff training and that provided by the applicant at the hearing shows that there has been no specific training other than a guide that has been presented to the committee today. And given that the applicants have operated 2 other sites as well as this location, that since March, it would be my submissions that as a licensee that should have been in place, not as a consideration as part of ongoing compliance as a result of the hearing. Those are my closing submissions.
Thank you. No questions. So summing up.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Last chance to sum up anything you wish us to take into account, and put all your thoughts into one if you like.
It's nothing major from our end, and like everything, whatever they asked on last visit, we did try fix all those things. And as I said, like within a 14 working days, we'll update our staff training record according to the policy. As we have two premises at this stage, it used to be three, now it's two. So we know what importance of staff training records and all those things. So we'll up to date everything. And if someone will quit a job or move somewhere, then according to the employment agreement, we have enough notice period. So when we will get a notice period, we'll advertise and get a new manager in to cover that shift of if they leave for, or just in case, if we don't have enough manager on board, then we have a backup plan according to that. So we do respect everything. It's nothing about we want to break a law. We are admitting that we will fulfill all the things each and every time when if they ask, then we will give them all records available at all time at any cost.
That's it.
That's for my.
Right, so that brings us to an end of the more formal proceedings of hearing submission of evidence. First and foremost, thank you guys for coming over. It's a big ask to come and sit here. It's not an easy place to be, I would imagine, sitting where you are. So I hope that you feel when you leave here that you have been heard and we've taken what you've said into account. Okay. We can't give you an answer today. We will give you an answer, as I said, hopefully within 2 weeks. That's certainly our intent. But you know, we do have up to about 6 weeks if need be, but I'm sure we won't take that long to do that. To the staff from South Wairarapa District Council, thank you for putting together all the evidence, and thank you for taking the time here to come and present your opportunities. And if you could pass the panel's thanks over to over the hill as well. And to members of the public, thank you for being here. I hope you have seen how the process works and go away thinking that everybody's had a chance to be heard. So, and obviously to our staff over here as well. So thank you for Amy, especially thanks to you for organising. So we will we'll close the proceedings here now. And so this room will now be closed so that we can talk through the evidence today. So thank you very much. That's the end of the proceedings.
I'm just a layperson.